A Tier 0 format doesn't seem that bad, right? Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Welcome to Tier 0. Ooh, spooky. So is this format, is it really as bad as it looks? Well, yes and no. Alright, let's just get the yes out of the way here. So Ishizu Tier Elements, the big bad deck in the room. Did you spend all of that money just to win locals? You pick up your entire Ishizu core, your entire Tier Elements core. I mean, technically you picked up your Tier Elements core very early on. You technically did win on those pre-sale prices. I remember some of those Paralineos being relatively cheap. But I will say for the most part that if you picked up the deck just to play locals, yeah. Now, I did read some discussions the other day about how the higher end competitive spectrum for the game right now is very skill based. I agree with that. The Infinite Ishizu Tier Elements mirror matches are very, very painful, alright, to the average player. But, like Teledad was back in the day, most of you are going to listen to that term now and be like, what's Teledad, Robbie? Well, whoa. Like most people now, it was a pretty skillful mirror match. One thing I will say about the game when you get into like these convoluted formats, you know, with more powerful Tier 0 things, the mirror match interactions really bring out player skill level. And while Tier up until this point has been a very RNG based deck with mills in particular, things like that, it definitely will show in the mirror match, you know, how players will do things. And especially like in this format, you have to know all of your interactions. And that's why like this format might look bad to some people, is the best deck in the room isn't necessarily the easiest to play. And I think that that's what's going to detour people a lot and say that this format is bad because high skill level deck, massive RNG, and then you need to know all of the skill loops. Does this remind anybody of DDD a little bit? Nowhere near as crazy, but when you look at DDD as a deck, you can learn some of the basic combo lines, but people writing spreadsheets out here and selling them for $20 because there were that many combo lines for that deck. That's crazy to me at the end of the day, but best deck in the room, very skill intensive, and so forth. All right, plus, you know, the power scaling of the deck, totally different story here. So if you're playing YCS's up, oh yeah, you're in for 9, 10, 11 rounds of mill simulator. So, but now let's get into how this format doesn't look that bad. The regional and the local level. Now, at a regional, 7, 8 rounds is going to be a little bit different of a story versus 9, 10, 11. Your variance actually kind of shifts a little bit. You can draw the dimension shifter in the key match. You might not everybody in the room is going to have Ishizu Tier Elements, actually. You're going to get the chance to play against more rogue decks as well. At what I would consider, you have your local level, regional level, and then YCS. YCS is the prestige, you know, maximum value, but regionals are the next step above the local level. While they are competitive to a degree, you will always see the little crazy good things shine through there, and you will always hear more cool stories from those particular events. You're like, oh my gosh, you know, like I made top 16 with this. You know, while top 8 is the prestige that is the top, you know, top 32 get their invites. You know, going 6-2 with a rogue deck is not that unheard of. All right, and that's why when we look at a Tier 0 format like this, for me, being a player that wants to, you know, try to beat the best deck, I know what my game plan is. You know, we got dimension shifters, we have all of this. I wouldn't be surprised to see Exorcist, or a deck that's literally designed to counter these strategies, actually show up and do something this format on a regional level. All right, you have lower rounds, so that means that the deck has a higher chance to consistently do what it needs to do. Variance will always be a very key fact for this. So That's one big thing, all right? At least on the regional level, you know what you need to focus on to beat. And for the players out here that want to focus on the anti-meta strategies, that's good. Now, on the other side of the equation here, you're like, oh, I just don't want to play this format because, I don't want to deal with the Ishizu meal. I understand that, but Rogue is still viable, which is what I'm trying to say here, which is very, very good, by the way. Because when we focus on the tier list and we look at these changes to the format here, things do look bad. But once again, if you're just aiming for your invite, like the average player that's done okay at locals, top 32 not being that unheard of, Conclave Control can still function. Is it going to have a good time? No. But there are still things that you can do on that regional level. So, moral of the story here, while you have a big bad scarecrow at the top of the food chain up here, all these Shizu cards looking like big meanie heads and being very intimidating, playing a regional this block isn't going to be that crazy. I would say you might run into 7 Ishizu 2 elements, or you could have a day where you're going to run into just maybe 1 or 2. And if you play 6 Rogue and 2 Ishizu 2 elements, and your only losses are to maybe an Ishizu 2 elements along the way, or you've lost to both, it's still a 6-2 record that you can play and do well with. All right, so don't be intimidated with that. Now, on the local level here, depending on how competitive your locals is, and this, I always stress this a lot because there's some locals out here that'll be 25 people and you'll have the same 8 Ishizu 2 elements players topping every week. It happens, all right? Like, it be like that. You could have a locals where you only have 1 Ishizu 2 element player. Maybe you have a locals where nobody wants to have Ishizu 2 elements, Maybe they're bored of playing Ishizu 2 elements. Congratulations. Now you have a locals out here that no longer has Ishizu 2 elements being played. Moral of the story is your local community will always be just your local community. You will always see the fundamental changes in the local metagame based on what those players have. So while once again the format looks really bad up here at the top end, where there's 1,500 buff Ishizu tier elements players in the room going, yeah, I love milling, when you start scaling down through the levels of play, it's not going to be that crazy. So to answer the question, for most of you that are looking at this format right now and you're like, oh man, Robbie, like I just want to take a break right now. I understand metagame fatigue. I do get it. I get that looking at the format can be very scary. I understand that a lot of intimidation definitely is playing into this right now. But I will say that your local community better than most people, right? You know what you're going to have to sit through every week. And if you don't have a lot of, the big scary boogeyman deck in the room, continue to go to your locals. Continue to have fun with your friends. Like, that's the big thing with these experiences in your local community is you're doing this for your local community, all right? You're going for these events to play around, see your friends, have good times with these players, and you're not really going for the mean decks. You're going hang out with the community. I always say that like Yu-Gi-Oh is about the community more so than the game itself. I've played many crappy formats throughout the years, but I've gone to some of the worst events. I was at Chicago for Tier 0 Infernity format, but I went to see people, not to really play the game so much. So in a game that is very community driven, very, very oriented in that, throughout the years, the community, there are always different aspects to the game. So even if you choose not to play right now and you just choose to look and collect, collecting is definitely not a bad thing. But moral of the story here, even if the format looks really bad, local level, even regional level, I don't think it's going to be that bad. You're just going to have to play the out 5 head. Just draw the Mystic Mine, all right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, hi Mystic Mine, welcome back to the party, man. The community is glad to have you. Just remember, you can always be that guy, no matter what. So, overall, I honestly don't think the format's that bad. I think that it's bad at the top end of the competitive, but playing Runic to mill out players in one of the worst formats that they already milled themselves out, definitely makes me happy. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you. ya!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.